everyone, and welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Allie.
And I'm Sarah.
And boy, I say this all the time, but this week,
I know,
this episode,
you need a new intro.
I do, but this episode, we are covering so much because the week in football was madness.
I love this time of year. We've got WSL. We've got all of the tournaments happening in England, right? Because we had the Conti Cup Final this past weekend. That's what we're going to discuss partially in this episode. We've got NWSL, third week of the regular season. We're going to get into that. Our game of the week is from NWSL, third week of the regular season. Honestly, they all could have been because NWSL is just like pedal to the metal. It's wild right now. And I mean, we've got everything. We got Champions League we're going to discuss as well. And of course, Korbin Albert's social media activity, apology, and the fallout since. We've got all that here. There's a lot.
Yeah. But speaking of socials, so anybody that follows me on my socials will see that I had 2 amazing encounters over the weekend. I was very excited.
For those of you who can't see Allie's face, they are grinning from ear to ear. I have rarely seen a smile like this.
Because it was beyond amazing. So, for anyone who doesn't know, go to West Ham game on Sunday, and because Christy Mewis is injured, she was doing a signing with another one of our players, Abby Lee Stringer. And so I was like, actually get to talk to Mewis because she hasn't been around as much because she's been injured. So, queue up. Go up. And of course, anybody who knows, our fellow Woso crew member, Chris, is in love with Christy Mewis.
Specifically her fashion.
So go to this signing and I have a little sign that I've made that just says, "Hi, Chris." And I go up to her and I was like, "Will you let me take a picture of you holding the sign?" Explained what Fits and Kits was. She was so down. I took the photo for him and then sent it to Chris with what I think was genius was, "Hey, Chris, who's your favourite co-host and why is it me?" And then sent him the pictures.
He was beside himself. For those of you who don't know, Fits and Kits is our Patreon show where Chris hosts and talks about the wonderful intersection between fashion and women's soccer, pregame fits, etc. And I think that made his year. He did have a child this year, so maybe that's number 1, but this is certainly number 2.
So, like, I broke him. So anyway, so that was really cool. And she was really sweet. And, like, so was Abby. And we had a really good chat and everything else. Then I go to my seat where I am in the stadium. And I'm talking to my friend, Hi Crick, who is a Man City fan, but lives in London to come to the West Ham games with me. And so we're sat chatting. And I look up and I'm like, that looks like Sam Mewis. That is Sam Mewis. And she was just standing, trying to find where she was supposed to be sitting for this West Ham game. And like nobody's really bothering her. So my friend, bless her, who is a Man City fan, literally throws her coffee at me being like, "Hold this, I'm going over." And I was like, "You think I'm not going with you? Like, that's stupid." So we go over and we're like, "We're really sorry to bothering your day off, but would you mind taking a photo?" And if I wasn't in love with Sam Mewis before, I am now, because that woman is just pure grace light. Everything you think she is and hope she is. She is. So we went over and we took a picture together, and I just like put my hand on her shoulder and said, "Just so you know, as a queer football fan, the fact you shared what Megan Rapinoe said meant the world to us." And she looked at me like I was a little bit crazy because she was like, "Well, of course I did." And I was like, "But it's not an of course, is it, Sam Mewis?" And she went, "Oh no, you're right. But of course I did."
Yeah, Sam Mewis is a real one. I said this to you before we recorded. People don't remember, like, you know, Sam was the vice president of the NWSL Players Association and the US, I think it was actually the US Women's National Team Players Association. I'm so sorry, I don't have it in front of me. It was one or both or one of them. She's been in this fight right next to, you know, Alex Morgan, Megan Rapinoe. What I also, honestly, I know this is a sidebar and we're going to come on to the whole Korbin Albert stuff, but what I also love about this is that it has made people realize what a real one Alex Morgan is too. Just saying.
But yeah, and so anyway, and then she was trying to find where she was sitting. We were joking, like, I'm like, "There's a seat next to us if you want." And she was laughing. And then cut to her social media, like, of the game. There's a picture of her eating a halftime pie. And you can see my head because she's literally sat 3 rows.
Oh, I didn't realize you could see your head in that photo.
Yeah, really, like 3 rows behind me. But genuinely, meeting both the Mewis sisters was absolutely amazing.
For those of you who are long-term time listeners, you'll remember Helen had a story from when Sam Mewis and Rose Lavelle were at City and Helen ran into them at the coffee shop, and Helen had very similar things to report, that Sam was just like the most pleasant sweetheart in the entire world. And what a day. 2 Mewies for the price of 1.
I know, it was glorious. Why meet one Mewis when you can meet 2? And that also broke Chris.
All right. So without further ado, let's get into it.
So let's start off with our game of the week. And we've mentioned it before, the NWSL is popping off just 3 weeks in. There has been some very unexpected results. We talked about it last week, which is what is happening at Portland. I'm sure we'll be back on that topic as the season progresses, if it keeps going as it does. But the game of the week has to be Bay FC versus the Houston Dash, because this game was explosive. Anybody doesn't know the score, the Dash took it 3-2. But that's not the whole story, is it?
It was wild. It was truly, I mean, I wanted to obviously cover this because it was Bay FC's inaugural home match. Professional women's soccer is back in the Bay Area. I was there. I want to talk about all of the vibes, but I wanted to cover it no matter what. And I was like, we can't cover it no matter what. It has to be a good game. And then honestly, it was. The first half was great. I feel like we're gonna come on to the game itself, but like the first half was great, but I thought it was gonna be a runaway for Bay FC. And then everything just exploded. There were 4 goals total in the second half. 2 of those goals came in injury time. It was truly NWSL after dark. And what a better way to break in PayPal Stadium than like a true NWSL after dark game. Am I right?
Yeah, no, 100%. So yeah, looking at this now, Bay obviously got a goal within the first half, within the first 20 minutes, and then get to the second half, and then the Dash scored twice within 15 minutes, and you think it's the Dashes, and then lo and behold, Bay come back in the 93rd minute to tie the game 2-2, and then 90 plus 10, so that's the 100th minute of this game, Dash come out with a beauty of a goal, to be fair, to make it 3-2. So let's talk about this game as a whole.
Yeah, well, I want to start with the fact that this was the inaugural home match for Bay FC, and women's professional soccer is back in the Bay Area, and this is a huge deal, and there's so many things to get into here. I mean, first and foremost, for those who don't know the history, obviously the NWSL is the third iteration of a women's professional league in this country. In both previous iterations, the Bay Area had a team. It was the San Jose Cyber Rays. Shout out to the Cyber Rays. I went to one of those games when I was little initially, and then it was FC Gold Pride. And then in this third iteration, the Bay Area didn't have a team until now. So this moment in this stadium, I posted some videos to our socials. Like, it is going to be hard for me to describe the electricity that was in the air that night. The doors opened at 5 o'clock to the stadium, right? Kickoff was at 7. So doors opened 2 hours before. And I arrived around 4:30, and there was already a line about half a mile long just to stand in line to get into the stadium when the doors opened. The line got so long they had to open the doors early because it started to become a hazard because there were so many people in line. It was fully sold out, 18,000 people. It was raining and everybody was still there. It was truly electric, and my little Bay Area heart could barely handle it. They were playing like Mac Dre. They were playing E40. They were just like leaning into the Bay Area of it. And if you've heard me talk about this,
I was gonna say, I'm old. I don't know who any of those are, but I'm.
It's not that you're old, Allie. It's that you're not from the Bay Area. That's what it is.
It's because I'm English. Okay.
It's just, if you've heard me talk about the Bay FC, I was concerned that they weren't going to lean into like the Bay Area of it all, because PayPal Park is in San Jose. And for those who don't know geographically, that's pretty far from San Francisco. Without traffic, it's like an hour drive. With traffic, it's, easily an hour and a half. And it's not very accessible on public transportation. It's pretty far. And I was worried that they weren't really going to lean into the Bay Area of it. They did. It was incredible. It was truly electric. And I just kind of say this to say, it still felt like a win for Bay FC. I know they lost in that scoreline, and we're going to come on to it because we do owe Houston some conversation here because they pulled it out. But it almost felt irrelevant because the storyline was that soccer, professional soccer for women is back in the Bay Area. People were so excited for it. It was just palpable, and there's so many really fun full circle moments that happened here. People don't know Brandy Chastain played on the Cyber Rays, that first inaugural team, and now she's one of the founding members of Bay FC. The head coach for Bay FC, Albertine Montoya, he was the head coach for FC Gold Pride, the second iteration of the Bay Area team, and now he's coaching Bay FC in the NWSL squad. It's just a lot of really beautiful full circle moments, and I really hope, I said this while I was at the stadium, and I'll say it here now, 18,000 strong for the inaugural home game is amazing. And it matters what happens next. You know, it can't start to fall off more and more and more. So the rest of the season will really be a test, but this was so special. It was a big celebration.
So let's get into the game and let's actually talk about the teams. Who do you want to take on first? Do you want to talk about the home team because of your love for them so far, or should we talk about the victors dash?
Let's talk about Bay FC. We're already on it. Let's talk about Bay FC.
Let's talk about Bay then. Because this game was wild. And their play is wild. Like, they have come into this, I will say this season, it's only been 3 games, I'm aware, but obviously they're a brand new team. They're not like it we've had before where they've been reiterations of a team that's already existed. They are a brand new team that has come in, and they have come in and stamped their authority already in this league, which I am very impressed with. They signed super well in the off-season. They took players like from the WSL. We saw Jen Beattie go across. We saw a couple of City players go across. So they've signed hugely, and they're putting their money where their mouth is.
Yeah, they've got deep pockets, that's for sure. And that's a conversation I think you and I need to have on this podcast another time about the amount of money that's coming into the NWSL right now and what it means. But we'll put that on the shelf for a moment. Bay FC, you said they've made a stamp, and they really have. Look, they've now won 1 game and lost 2. But in both of those games, they happened to go up 1-0 initially and then lost it. So their second game against the Spirit, they went up 1-0. Spirit took it 2-1. In this game, they went up 1-0, and then Houston ended up taking it 3-2. That's something in the press conference that everybody has commented on. Head coach Albertine Montoya said, we need to learn how to close out games. But as you mentioned, this is a brand new franchise, and there are some players on this team who, for example, some of the internationals, namely the second goal scorer, Rachel Kundananji, she only started practicing with the team on Tuesday because she was also injured. So she was cleared for full practice on Tuesday, and then she came and played on Saturday. This is a team that's still gelling, but at the core, what you can see here, and by the way, we should talk about that goal. At the core, what you can see here is head coach Albertine Montoya has implemented a true possession-based style of play in this team. And I think that's why it's partially why it felt like the result almost didn't matter. The way this team were playing was beautiful to watch, truly. And this is me without my bias. I think they're my favorite team to watch in the NWSL in terms of how they play soccer. Right now, in this moment, it is the most beautiful brand of football for me in what I like to watch. And you can already see that. And the fact that you can already see that, and it's their 3rd game, I mean, the ceiling, I mean, the sky's really the limit for this team.
I was going to say, to be fair, all of the goals in this game were pretty gorgeous.
Truly, all of them.
There was very few, scuff shots or anything like that. All 5 of these goals were beautiful goals. But let's talk about the second goal for Bay, and we'll move on to Dash shortly. Just because anybody who follows on our socials, you'll see that Sarah captured a video of the aftermath of that second goal. And it was, again, I felt like the anticipation and the atmosphere just from the video. So let's talk about the second goal.
The second goal for Bay FC, oh my goodness. So obviously that first goal, Dana Castellanos scored that first goal. It was the first goal to ever be scored for Bay FC at home. It was gorgeous. But like you said, what takes the cake, this second goal for Bay FC, it comes in stoppage time. They're down 2-1. And in the 93rd minute, Rachel Kundananji, the Zambian 23-year-old striker, puts just an absolute beauty away. And the stadium, I had to plug my ears because it started to hurt my head so much. That's how loud it got. The stadium went ballistic. She ran over the sideline. She grabbed her Zambian flag and she started celebrating with it. And it's really those moments where you just stop and you're like, this is this is special. This is something that I think everybody here is going to remember. And it felt in that moment like she'd equalized. The equalized felt like they had won. Obviously, then we have another goal to talk about for Houston when they came back from it. But this is a player, like I said, that had been practicing with this team since Tuesday only. And when you think about her paired with Ashwala up top, come on now. This team is going to be unreal.
It is so exciting. So let's talk about the victors. Let's talk about the dash, because the dash have been a bit hit and miss.
Have they been hit and miss, or have they just been miss?
I meant in general. Like, if you look at last season, I'll start that again. But they have been hit and miss. You look at last season, they would pull out these spectacular results and then lose 3 games on the trot, and you wonder what's happening. And it's happened again this season. The start of this season's not been the greatest for Houston. And this is their first win. I know it's only been 3 games, but what a win. What a win.
I mean, yeah, this looked like a completely different team from the first half to the second half, to get into the game a little bit more. Bay FC were absolutely ripping them apart in the first half. Bay FC had control of possession. They had all of the opportunities, all of the dangerous shots on goal. And Houston really looked like they just didn't even know what they were doing. They truly looked like they came in. They didn't have a plan. They didn't even know their style of play. They looked like 11 individuals on the field. That's what the first half looked like for them. And in the second half, listen, they came out and suddenly it was a team. They were attacking. They were pressing. They're a counterattack team, right? They have speed on the wings. They have speed up top. They're not going to play possession-based soccer. But what they were doing is they were creating a lot of trouble for that Bay FC back line. And as they should, this is a back line that has only played together, those 4. This was their second game together. And Houston were able to truly exploit them. I thought that finally we saw Sanchez getting into it a little bit more. She was sat back in the first half and she was able to push forward more in that second half. And at the end of the day, Diana Ordonez just put this team on her back. This player is special, okay? Mexican women's national team player, 22 years old. And that first goal in the second half belonged to Diana Ordonez. She equalized it 1-1 in the 66th minute. And that goal was completely created by her. She created it in the midfield. She made a couple 1-2 wall passes up the field and then a beautiful finish. That goal 100% belonged to her. She lit that fire under Houston Dash. What a special player she is.
I was going to say, she was the standout for me. And she was the highlight for me for Houston before. And then, this game, you're like, you're back in it now. You get in there.
This was the Diana Ordonez that we'd expected in this league. This was the Mexican women's national team player that we'd seen. This is the star. And again, she's 22 years old. There's so much youth here. I think both players that we've really called out for their incredible goals, putting the team on their back, so young. And Diana Ordonez, I mean, I think if I'm going to point to one player to watch in this league right now, watch her, because this is special. She's a special talent.
Absolutely. And very funny, before we move on, we have to talk about the final goal, the one in 90+10. There was the heartbreak for Bay, but
I'm not going to lie, I don't even remember it. I don't remember what happened. I remember the build-up and being like, this doesn't feel good. And then it really just took the air out of everything. But it was one of those moments where in that moment in the game, all hell had broken loose. Like, the top had been blown off and we were in that moment of anything goes. So it wasn't even that surprising. But credit to Houston. Like you said, they pulled it out. They had a terrible first half. They did not deserve to be in that game based on the first half. And credit to them. They crawled back into it and they owned that second half. They deserved that win 100%. And I do think it's funny. I think people were really trashing Houston Dash on social media. And then just recently, the Dash admin account kind of posted a photo of the Dash winning with all of those tweets being like, Houston, are you okay? What's going on? And just kind of bragging, being like, do you guys have a word now? This is what we love about the NWSL. Admin for Houston Dash, trash talking after one win. We just love it. But credit to them. This could be a good moment for them in the season. This could be what they grow on. Let's go around the world. Around the world, around the world.
Starting with Scotland, and we had yet another Glasgow derby, and this time it was Celtic versus Glasgow City, and it was Celtic who were victorious. This has allowed Celtic to climb to just 1 point within the league leaders Rangers, who also won this weekend, keeping that title race so tight.
And over to Spain, La Liga. Barcelona are 12 points clear after a 5-0 win over Levante. The true race is now for second and third. Real Madrid are second with 52 points, but third place is much closer. There's 1 point between third, fourth, and fifth. So, who will get that last Champions League spot?
And finally to France, we now have our playoff teams for the finals. It is Lyon, PSG, Paris FC and Reims. These are the teams that will face each other to take the title. The semi-finals will take place on the 12th of May and the deciding match and the third place playoffs will take place on the 17th of May.
Have you checked out Total Football Analysis yet? TotalFootballAnalysis.com provides researched analysis on loads of football, including the women's game. Want all the stats in one place instead of drowning in a mountain of tabs? Want to explore key matchups and the tactics from both teams? Total Football Analysis provides the stats and analysis to help you learn more about the beautiful game. We have a special discount for listeners of the Women's Soccer Show. At checkout, type WOSO10 to get a full year for just €10. That's €40 of the yearly subscription. Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and type WOSO10 at checkout.
Over to the Conti Cup Final. That's right, everybody. We're already in the Conti Cup Final. Arsenal and Chelsea faced off for this hardware. Arsenal took it 1-0 in overtime. We're going to talk about the game on the field and all of the happenings off the field, including that post-game coaches, whatever you want to call it. Tussle. Allie, thoughts on this game on the field? Let's start with that.
Okay, so was it a classic final? No. Let's
Absolutely
be honest.
not. I'm not going to be rewatching that one.
Yeah, and it wasn't even a classic game like Arsenal v Chelsea, because we know that those games can be absolutely phenomenal. I feel like Chelsea definitely were tired. Like, they have a really strong final push with Champions League. They're still in the FA Cup. They're still fighting for the title of the WSL. So I think they weren't at their 100%. I don't know what Arsenal's problem was, but neither were they. It was a pretty lackluster game. I honestly thought it was going to go to penalties.
I was
waiting
too.
for it. Like, we were getting to the dying moments, and then obviously Black Stinius pulled I won't even say it was a magnificent goal. She beat some tired Chelsea defenders.
The goal
Let's be honest.
reflected the game for sure.
It did. I was like, this was not an instant classic final,
But a goal nonetheless, and an Arsenal win nonetheless. And it does need to be said that despite the season, which truly and honestly has been a disappointment for Arsenal in terms of what they could have done and what they wanted, they're now sitting like they're going to walk away with a Champions League spot and a trophy. So they've got some hardware, and let's be honest, like, that might be more than what City walks away with. It might be more than what Chelsea walks away with. Probably not, though.
That's what I'm saying, because obviously this was supposed to be the big Emma Hayes finale. It's now being set up, thanks to Steph Houghton, to be the Steph Houghton versus Emma Hayes finale, because they're both leaving the WSL at the end of this season. So it's like, who's going to get the dream ending? But it was set up that Chelsea would get the quadruple, which hasn't been done since Arsenal in 2007. And they did not. It's like, put that to
still plenty to go for Chelsea, still plenty of hardware on the line. But Arsenal very well could walk away with more hardware than City at the end of the day, which is absolutely wild based on how these two teams have performed this year. But nonetheless, let's get into it, Allie, because before we get really to the off the field, there was a really scary moment on the field, because I feel like we don't really want to get into the tactics of this, because we've talked about it's not that great of game, but we have to comment on that really scary moment in injury time, and suddenly Frida Maanum just collapses on the field. no ball, just completely collapses. I didn't even see it because, again, it was off the ball. And whenever that happens, it's just a terrifying moment. And we spent, 10 minutes, everybody wondering what was going on, if she was okay. Obviously, everybody's first thought is the worst. At the end of the day, she's okay. It's been reported that she fainted. She didn't even go to the hospital. She's conscious. She's doing well. But absolutely terrifying moment there on the field.
Yeah, so for anybody who watches men's football, it instantly gave you the thoughts of Christian Eriksen, who is the Danish international who, when playing for Denmark, went down and it was a heart attack. He had something wrong with one of his aortas and he went down, and you had that same fear. Whenever a player goes down off the ball, you have that moment. I will say it was wonderful to see that you had both sets of medics, like Emma Hayes sent the Chelsea medics to go with the Arsenal medics. TV cameras went straight off, so you couldn't see her and what she was being worked on, which is awful, but it's good because you don't need to see what they're going to do. And she got a rousing round of applause when she came off the pitch. And like you said, we are getting news now that she was awake and talking within at half an hour of coming off, and then she didn't even go to the hospital. She came back with the Arsenal team. So we are wishing her well, but it was scary. It was scary because you're like, have I just seen a player die today?
Yeah,
because
I mean, these moments are just bigger than football. I had to turn the game off at that moment, and I couldn't understand how players were going to go back out onto the field and continue to play a game. It's come out since then, and it seems like Arsenal players knew that she had fainted and she's okay, and then they were able to continue without something like that weighing in the back of their minds. Because I don't know about you, but
yeah, I couldn't have done it.
As a player, I could barely continue on if one of my teammates tore their ACL. I was distraught the rest of the game, so let alone this.
And her best friend scored, because best friend Blackstinian scored, so it was definitely a little bit poetic.
Happy to see that she's okay. It was a little bit poetic, wasn't it?
But that wasn't even the biggest drama. That wasn't even the biggest
That was
drama.
weirdly overshadowed by what is usually a throwaway moment after the game. The two head coaches shake hands, and thank goodness the camera captured this in real time as Jonas Eideval and Emma Hayes approached each other. Jonas goes in for the handshake. Emma Hayes looks like she is, and then as they meet, she shoves him off and clearly says something. Jonas, his reaction was like, what in the world is going on? Kind of screw that. And then that was it. They both spoke about it in post-game press conferences. Allie, talk us through. For those who don't know, this isn't new beef, and I think a lot of people are wondering what that was about. Was it about the past? Was it about the present? Talk us through this.
So from what's happened, because for anybody who knows, if there's a major rivalry between two managers, it's these two. These two have managed to wind each other up since Jonas took over Arsenal, let's be honest. But this particular one, it comes from, and I didn't know this until reading into the argument. So in terms of how to deal with if the ball goes out of play, there is two ways you can do it in, I don't know if this is worldwide or just England, but there's two ways. You can either have ball boys, ball girls, and have multiple balls, so that if a ball goes off, you can be passed another ball while the ball girl boy goes and gets the one that's disappeared off. Or you can have one ball, literally one ball, and it has to be got and play is stopped until that ball is got. Jonas wanted multi-ball. Emma Hayes wanted singular ball. They flipped for it. Emma Hayes got her wish, and it was singular ball. So the argument comes from Chelsea have just conceded. They've just had that goal from the Blackstinians, so they've just conceded, and the ball goes out from the kickoff. So Erin Cuthbert's gone to get the ball and has gestured to get the emergency ball from the fourth official, because they have one just in case someone skies it and it literally goes out the stadium, to get the game started quicker. Jonas wasn't happy about that because Chelsea had turned down multi-ball, which would have got the game quicker. And so he says something to Erin Cuthbert. Now, we don't know what he said to Erin Cuthbert because neither of them were mic'd. You just know that he directs something at Erin Cuthbert. Game continues. Obviously, Emma Hayes has heard what he said to Erin Cuthbert and isn't happy.
And I'll say, Erin Cuthbert responded. She approached Jonas
Erin
and
was not
clearly
it,
said something to him back.
And so it comes from that. And then obviously we see with the handshake, and basically Emma Hayes body checks him and is like, go away. She's then said when asked about it, there's too much male aggression and women are supposed to take male aggression, and therefore she was saying something to defend her player against an aggressive male.
Yeah, she's made it a thing that he has been inappropriate on a sideline before. Other coaches have commented on his aggression and his actions on the sideline and essentially saying this isn't a one-off. He essentially displays too much, quote, male aggression on the sideline that is inappropriate.
Yeah. Whereas
for
Jonas was like,
the
I
WSL.
do not know what's happened here.
Yeah. Jonas was like, oh, this was about the ball and the fact that she wants to use multi-ball only when it suits her, and that's why she was mad because I said something about it. So clearly these two aren't on the same page as far as, you know, why Emma was mad. But then it really, I think what's also interesting is this caused kind of like a firestorm on social media where everybody was almost jumping to sides and saying like, Emma's being a sore loser. No, Emma's correct. Jonas is right. Jonas is wrong. So on and so forth. And everybody's taking sides. And quite honestly, I think that they're both wrong in this case. Like, I think this is truly, we don't, it can be gray, everybody. We don't know what Jonas said. We don't know if what he did was inappropriate. But I think that at the end of the day, Emma Hayes can be both right and wrong. She can be right potentially about his behavior and wrong in how she acted in the post game. Because yeah, did she need to shove him? Would she have done that had Chelsea won?
No, probably not.
So you can be right and you can be wrong. And I think that largely this is just a bigger conversation around, you know, maybe what is appropriate on the sideline. I think both of them are right and wrong in this case. Did Jonas make a good point about the balls? Yep, he really did. Could he have potentially said something that was inappropriate?
Yep.
100%.
And also, I want to know, would, again, Emma Hayes says about male aggression, say it'd been Chelsea Villa in the final, because it could have been, because that's who Arsenal played in the semi, and Carla Ward had said something to Erin Cuthbert with the same intensity, would Emma Hayes have called Carla Ward out in the same way? I don't know, and I would side with probably not. But like you said, I don't think there's a right or wrong in this one. I think they were both completely wrong in some respects, and
they were both right and they were both wrong.
Yeah. The joys. Now, the final thing I want to talk about the Conti Cup, because it was something that everybody talked about, which is everybody's favourite 3-letter word, VAR. Because it was, and we talked about it before where we said that it should be consistent, but it's only used if the ground that they're playing at is equipped with it. They were playing in Wolverhampton at a Premier League ground that does have VAR, so VAR was used. And I will honestly say this is probably the best application of VAR I have seen.
It's nice when it works quickly and efficiently. And we've seen a lot in the NWSL. VAR is taking 5-10 minutes. That is not quickly and efficiently. And it really changes the game. When it's quick and it's efficient and it's correct, it doesn't change the game for the worse.
And finally, told you this was an action-packed episode, we are talking European Championships with the Champions League. The semi-finals are now set. We didn't get our upset, unfortunately, but I will say the games that were played were beautiful, and that the teams that went out in the competition really held their own and really gave a good showing of themselves. I want to give a huge shout out to Ajax, who kept Chelsea to a 1-1 draw at Chelsea, which is no mean feat. So
I was actually disappointed, I'm not going to lie. For those of you who subscribe to our Patreon, you heard our predictions. We did a whole Patreon segment about Champions League ahead of this second leg of the quarterfinals that just happened. And I really did expect, I expected Hacken to put up maybe a better performance against PSG. I thought the teams who were the underdogs hung on for like the first half, and then once it was gone, it was gone. But all of those teams needed to score first, and none of them did. And then, you know, Lyon took over, Barcelona took over, PSG took over. So I actually didn't think it wasn't what I had hoped for. Was it what we all maybe expected? Perhaps. But on to the semis we go, and we've got some matchups.
Yes. So the first semi-final is Barcelona versus Chelsea. Now, these guys are already becoming old adversaries. You know, Barcelona have knocked Chelsea out of the Champions League twice. I am counting the finals being knocked out because, you know, you don't win. And it's already a grudge match. It's already becoming, especially for Chelsea fans, it's becoming.
It does feel like it. It feels like a bit of a rivalry here.
Yeah, it's growing and it's becoming a thing. And the second semi-final is Lyon and PSG. So we've got an all-French semi-final, which means at least one French team's getting to that final.
There we go. The one semi you didn't want, Allie.
I didn't want this one because I'm like, they play each other all the time. But as you said, it's different in a tournament. But I was like, surely Lyon and PSG fans are bored of playing each other by now.
I think it'll be fun. Like you just mentioned, I referenced this on our Patreon segment last week. I think it's fun when teams meet in a different tournament that are used to playing each other in the league. It adds some weight to it. They know each other very well, and now there's really something to play for here on the line other than the title that they're just used to contending for. I think this is going to be a blast. I'm so excited. Let's quickly run through, because we made predictions before the second leg of the quarterfinal.
And already you were wrong.
Yeah, I'm already wrong. I went for the upsets, okay? I just shot. It's March Madness here in the US, so I was just like, you know what? Let's go for it. I'm used to just like let's get that bracket, let's choose those upsets. So I actually did have I had Häcken and Chelsea in the final. So that's obviously not going to happen.
That was a dreamer's final. Mine was
Wait, let me pull these up.
Yeah, mine was Barca and Lyon as the final, which could still happen, and I still think will happen. I think Chelsea are going to again be the bridesmaids, not the bride.
Yeah, so you're 4 for 4 here.
Go me.
Oh no, you're not. I'm sorry, you're not 4 for 4 here. You predicted Häcken over PSG.
Yeah. Again, I think I had a dream about Häcken being able to do it, but yeah, it's going to be exciting. I am excited for the Champions League semi-finals. They are happening at the end of April.
Let me ask you one question for this. Yeah, so semifinals, leg 1 starts April 20th. I want to focus really quickly on this Barcelona-Chelsea matchup. If you're Chelsea and you have the option, you have 2 different ways to beat Barcelona. You can either beat them in one singular game, and we call that a victory, or you can choose to have the aggregate, and you can play them in 2 games and beat them across the aggregate. Which do you think you have a better chance at beating Barcelona? Do you think you have a better chance at beating them with an aggregate across 2 games or in one singular game?
This is going to sound like such a cop-out answer, but if it's one game, it depends on the venue. If it's a neutral venue, you have a better shot over one game. If it is that you flipped a coin for it and you get like drawn home or away and you have to play at Camp Nou, you've got no hope. So I honestly do believe it depends on the venue. The way Chelsea are playing now, I think they can do better on the aggregate, because if they can hold off, because I think they play at Barca first. If they can hold on at Barca and can hold on to, even if they concede 1, or they can hold on to a 0-0 or a 1-1 or whatever, and then going into, probably will be Stamford Bridge rather than Kingsmeadow, but they can go to a home advantage on the second leg. I always say the team that has the home tie on the second leg of aggregate has the advantage.
Yes, if Chelsea can draw on that first leg, it'll feel like a win, because then they're going home drawn on aggregate. I think truly, if Chelsea are going to beat Barcelona, it's going to be across 2 games. I think they have a better chance of winning on aggregate. So I think this is actually well set up for Chelsea, especially like you just said, going to Barcelona first. And the goal there can truly be like, let's hold it to 1 goal or a draw. And everything else can be a cherry on top. And then we go home and we can see what we can do at home. On the other hand, PSG, Lyon, this is a total toss-up, quite honestly. And that's what I love about when matchups like this happen, when it's league rivals in a different type of tournament. Because you can look at the league and you can see that Lyon are sitting well atop the league, 7 points ahead of PSG. But you have to throw that all away when it's the Champions League.
Plus, if you look at the head-to-head matchups in the league, this last season, Lyon only beat PSG 1-0, and then it was a 1-1 draw on the reverse fixture. So these teams do know each other well. Yes, it's a different setup. Yes, it's a different tournament, but they do know each other so well that genuinely, I honestly don't know. I've backed Lyon to do it, but a great PSG can turn up and throw the rulebook away.
All right. Speaking of PSG, we've got to talk about, we mentioned it at the very top that we were going to get into the Korbin Albert of it all. Korbin Albert, of course, is a young U.S. women's national team international. She's only got a few call-ups under her belt, but of course, most recently, she was a standout performer in the Gold Cup. We spoke a lot about her and her performance on the field and how incredible it was. It was truly like a missing piece in the midfield. And that's what a standout she was, despite just a few call-ups in the U.S. women's national team. She's also a midfielder for PSG. And this past week, I don't know, I woke up to just a storm of, oh my goodness, Allie. We have to get into what happened because she made the news for all of the wrong reasons.
Yeah, I sent you a message being like, just when I was liking Korbin Albert, this happens. So, as with what happens when you become a famous person, is your social media history comes to light and fans will do a deep dive on what you do.
I want to just preface this by saying we're not getting into this because it's like gossip or drama. We're getting into this because this deeply matters on a very obviously personal level to both of us, but I think also mainly what everybody was upset about on a very large level across the women's soccer community, in literally in the foundation of what a lot of the community and some of the teams were truly built on. And this part of covering women's soccer is, people say inherently political. I don't think it's political, but part of it is that we decided we also have an obligation to cover the social issues because they are all, it's intertwined. It is all intertwined. So that is why we were covering it.
Correct. Yes. So anyway, just before the PSG quarterfinal that happened, it came to light that Korbin Albert has shared some abusive, and I'm calling them what they are, abusive TikToks involving Christians in air quotes and conversion therapy for LGBTQ plus people. She has also liked posts that are supporting Trump and like issues that happened on the right wing.
Really homophobic and transphobic.
Really homophobic
content.
Really transphobic content. And the one I think, to be honest, that annoyed most people, didn't annoy me the most, but annoyed most people, was she also shared a meme that was, I believe it said...
No, she liked it.
Well, she liked it.
She didn't share it. She liked it.
It said that God taking a day off of performing miracles to make sure that Megan Rapinoe is hurt in her last game.
It was the nail in the coffin for me. I know it wasn't for you, but that was the nail in the coffin for me. So let's keep going on what happened, and then let's get into what we think about it, because that all obviously got blown up. Somebody found all of this, and it just
exploded.
Off. Talk about viral, right?
Yeah, all for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, and this is all, honestly, whilst she's probably preparing for leg 2 of the quarterfinals for Champions League. And so after leg 2, she posts on her Instagram finally an apology that was so lackluster I don't even want to read it, to be totally honest with you. Should we just read it for good measure?
Oh yeah, I don't mind reading it, because if you want to talk about a copy and paste apology. So she posted this on her, I believe, Insta, which was, "I want to sincerely apologize for my actions on social media. Liking and sharing posts that are offensive, insensitive and hurtful was immature and disrespectful, which was never my intent." And we're going to get back to that word in a minute. "I'm really disappointed in myself and deeply sorry for the hurt that I have caused to my teammates, other players, fans, friends and anyone who was offended." We're going to come back to that and all. "I truly believe that everyone should feel safe and respected everywhere and on all playing fields. I know my actions have not lived up to that, and for that I sincerely apologise. It is an honour and a privilege to get to play this sport on the world stage, and I promise to do better."
Yeah, and the part that we also missed is before that apology came out, obviously Korbin Albert wears number 15, which is Megan Rapinoe's old number. So many people were, honestly just like tweeting at Megan Rapinoe, like, help us, Pino. And Pino ended up posting to her Instagram. I'll read this. She said, quote, "For people who want to hide behind, quote, my beliefs, I would just ask one question. Are you making any type of space safer, more inclusive, more whole, any semblance of better, bringing the best out of anyone? Because if you aren't, all you believe in is hate, and kids are literally killing themselves because of this hate. wake the fuck up. Yours truly, number 15. And then she added a little message at the bottom: for all of my trans homies enduring this horrific treatment day in and out, I see you and I hear you and I am with you. And other U.S. women's national team players reposted that, including, I think, Becky Sauerbrunn, Sam Mewis, Christy Mewis, Lynn Williams. I apologize if I'm missing some, but I'll just say, you know, Megan Rapinoe got a lot of support from current U.S. women's national team players before that. And then Korbin Albert posted that apology. Am I missing anything, or shall we get into it?
No, I think we have and the other slight thing is that, not really to do with her, but obviously she scored a goal in that PSG game and her mother was liking some questionable social media, shall we say, including one that was, now she's apologized and scored that goal, she can just piss on all of her haters. I was like, mother, you're not helping. You are not helping, but Lord knows we know where you got that behavior from, Corbin.
Yeah, there's a lot to say about this, and I think a lot of people's initial reaction, honestly, I was pretty torn. I was just beside myself, I think, and I want to assume the best in people, and I want to assume that people can change and give space to change. So I think let's start with this idea that I think I kind of came to, which was, okay, she's 20 years old and she grew up in a very religious family that clearly had these beliefs. Is there space and room for us to give her grace to kind of change and not be hateful? I think that the nail in the coffin for a lot of people was that post that she liked about Megan Rapinoe getting injured, because that is just like, it's truly just pure hate, and it's not beliefs. And I think Megan Rapinoe said it best when it's like, yeah, this is just hiding behind beliefs. But I mean, there's a lot of things. There's so many different facets and layers of this. And we were talking, Allie, because, you know, I didn't grow up in a very religious household whatsoever. So that's why I can sit here and say, like, maybe I can see a world in which if you grow up in this, it's really hard to see anything different until you're in a world that is different. But it's hard to also understand that she's been a professional soccer player for this long and still holds these beliefs to be true. How can she play in the women's national team? How can she put number 15 on and still hold these beliefs? And I think I think a lot of people think about Hinkle, former U.S. women's national team player who refused to put the pride jersey on and was essentially like ostracized from the whole community and then retired because she was extremely homophobic. And it cuts so deep for so many reasons. This entire U.S. women's national team was built on striving for equality for all. And the entire women's soccer community was built around equality and equity for all. And this is just so counter and so hateful. It's just so counter to what this entire community represents. I agree with everybody who was saying online, like, I don't understand how she can be in this space and hold these beliefs. I don't understand.
No. What I want to come back to, and I alluded to it earlier, and so I want to come back because there's a specific word in her apology, which is when she says, it was immature and disrespectful, which was never my intent. I asked this out to you as an open question, Korbin Albert. What was your intent? What was it? You're sharing these videos. What is your intent? Because I did grow up in a religious household. I was religious from the year dot till I was 18 and I got out of it and my parents left shortly after. I have seen conversion videos like that my entire childhood. They are harmful, they are abusive, they are disgusting. You are not sharing them on your platform to be like, look at this horrible thing that's happening in my church. You're sharing them because you agree with them in some level and respect. So when you're saying it was never my intent, what was your intent sharing those videos? That's what got me so riled up and so angry and disgusted, is because you're saying, no, I'm like, it was your intent. This is why it's such a terrible, and I'm going to say this was a piss poor apology. This was such a cover my ass. I've screwed up and I'll write the buzzwords that are going to get people. And so I do believe people can grow and change. And I feel like if we ostracize her too much, she's going to end up on the Riley Gaines side of things, which I never want for anybody. And anybody who doesn't know who Riley Gaines is, she's an American swimmer who has taken it against herself because she happened to lose a couple of races against all trans people competing in sport. And basically, she got her butt kicked by a lot of cis people, but it's the trans people that are the problem. So I do believe that if we ostracize her, she will go into that level, and that's never a good thing. But you know what I do want? I want her to go into that national team and look Turner Davison in the eye and be like, and tell her what her intent was sharing those videos. I want her to look at players like Alex Morgan, who fought so hard to get equal pay that she is now benefiting from, what her intent was going after her friend Megan Rapinoe.
I know. I had that thought too. I was like, you're trashing this woman who is the reason you're getting paid right now. All of these women built this entire thing before you, and they all believe in this, and they're the reason you have the life you have right now, and you are, for lack of a better word, just shitting on it with no respect for why you are able to do what you do. And I know that can sound kind of, I don't know, like, oh, you should, you know, respect who came before you, and you wouldn't have this if it wasn't for us. But the reality is you wouldn't. And I don't know. I mean, look, Alexi Lawless tweeted something along the lines of, if every single team had to all hold the same beliefs, then there wouldn't be any teams in the world, or whatever he tweeted, essentially implying like teams are made up of people with different beliefs, and that's just how it goes. And that's so, I mean, how do I say this? That's so making light of what this situation is. That's like saying, you and I can't play on the same team, Allie, because we don't like the same flavor of ice cream. We're not talking about that. We're talking about somebody who fundamentally disagrees with who a teammate is as a human being, and thinks that they shouldn't have rights as a human being equal to the rights that she has. And that's very, very different. And I can't stand when people put that argument out like Alexi Lawless just did. It's just, you know, you can look at the U.S. women's national team, and if you think that 2020 and some players kneeling and some players not kneeling didn't cause a rift in that locker room, you are joking yourself. These things, they matter.
Yeah, no, 100%. You see it all the time. You're telling me that Megan Rapinoe and Carly Lloyd had exactly the same beliefs at exactly the same time. Of course they didn't. Of course this is causing all of that. But at the same time, this is about arguing about someone's right to exist. Like you said, it's not about debating whether pineapple should go on pizza. You are debating about someone's right to exist. And I'm telling you, I do want her to still play She Believes. I still want her to go to the camp and everything else, but I want it to be so uncomfortable for her. I want her to feel so rattled by going there, because it's got to hit home for her. It's got to be more than I can sweep this under the rug if I quickly apologize. Because I want her to look at her teammates in the eye and then ask her, well, what did you mean? Because I just keep cycling back to that word intent. And also where it says, and anyone who is offended. No, you were offensive. Let's get that clear. You were offensive. You were posting abusive videos. So it's not about anyone who was offended. You were offensive. Let's not make it about the passive.
Yeah. I feel for everybody who was hurt by this. I think both of us were. I feel for the teammates, her U.S. teammates, her PSG teammates in the locker room with her who now have to deal with this. That's not fun either. I can't imagine being in that locker room and having to look at her in the eye and talk to her about this. That's just another burden for people to carry who didn't deserve to carry that burden. But sadly, that's just how it goes, you know? And so, I don't expect it to be pleasant for her at She Believes. I really don't. But we'll see how this goes. I do agree with you that sometimes when ostracized, it can get even worse. So there is some level of how to handle this. And she is young. That really comes into question. All right. With She Believes being mentioned, next week, Allie, it's international break, baby.
Just so excited.
Let's run down what we've got.
So England have our Euro qualifiers. So we have got the game against, I believe it's Sweden we are taking on. Get me. at Wembley, and also the Ireland game. We are playing them in Dublin.
And She Believes kicks off April 6th. Baby, we've got USA, Japan, Canada, and Brazil. Those are the 4 teams in She Believes, and we will be covering it all next week. What an episode, Allie.
Also, and if that wasn't enough, as if this juicy episode wasn't enough for you, please go over and check out our Patreon. We obviously post news and 10 there. We do fits and kits, but also we have got an amazing interview we did with Skip Gilbert, who is the CEO of US Youth Soccer. We got to sit down and chat with him about his career and what he feels about the collegiate system, the academy system, bringing in players as young as we saw with Lily Johannes, and also, you know, the 13-year-old that Gotham brought in. It was a fun chat. We had a great time with him, and the unedited, beautiful interview is on our Patreon, so make sure you check that out for all that wonderful content.
And for us here at the Women's Soccer Show, I've been Sarah.
And I've been Allie.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night!
This podcast was edited by Monkey Hill Media. Visit monkeyhillmedia.com for more information.